like we had been doing. I'm going to start recording. So we're recording. But I just wanted to recap on yesterday to make sure that, like, did anybody have any other, oh, Bobby, no. Hey, put that back.
I want this.
It's frozen. I'm good right now. Yeah, go put it back in the freezer. So did anybody have anything else that they wanted to share that they didn't either get to yesterday, or that maybe something happened later in the day, or anything that they had happened? I just want to make sure that we don't just like skip over yesterday's topic. I'm actually really proud of you guys. First of all, I'll start. I'm like super proud of us for yesterday.
I want the 1-star diamond. One more. I got a lot of hard work.
So I have this pen that I bought, and it has a big old diamond on it. And he goes, ooh, I want one of those. And I was like, well, you got to become a 1-star diamond. I was like, that's how you get it. So now this morning he's like, I'm going to become a 3-star diamond. And I was like, do it, dude. I was like,
2-star diamond.
that's awesome. Okay, I need you to go finish your cereal and go watch your movie, okay? Thank you. But yeah, so I was like, you want a pen like this? I was like, yeah, become a diamond. I'm priming my whole family for Beachbody, just so you guys know. But yeah, I'm very proud of us for yesterday. I think that yesterday is not an easy topic. It's a hot topic, right? Like, it's a hot topic if you were to say like current event style. But it's not an easy one to talk about. And so I really, really am very proud of us for yesterday, you guys. So even if it felt awkward, or even if it felt uncomfortable, I want you guys to know that the more we have these conversations, the easier they become, right? The more we educate ourselves, the more we learn, the more we understand, the more we grow, the easier these conversations will become. The easier the conversations become, the quicker we can start making change, right? So we can't make change in our society unless, like I said yesterday, we do that hard work, right? Unless we actually do the work to understand the issue, to work through it, to grow through it, to try to change it, right? Like, I know for me, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I think about it like, I'm so over this race war, as in, let's work through it and get through it so everybody really can just be created equal. I don't want to be silent, like, let's pretend it's not happening. I'm like, can we just do all of this hard work and just like get through it? I'm kind of more that person. Like, I'm willing to like put in the hard work, but let's just put in the freaking hard work so we can just get through this and be done with it, right? Like, so we can just be on the other side of it and start growing to be better people. And so for me, I'm like, a lot of people try to avoid the hard work. Like, just like with health and fitness, a lot of people are just always trying to avoid the hard work. But the hard work is the only way you're going to get through it. It's the only way that you're going to get those results, right? Like, the only way you're going to get those rock hard abs or those freaking quads that stick out of your shorts is by doing the hard work. It's the same thing with everything else, you guys. It's the same thing in our relationships. We talked about relationships last week. We're talking about race yesterday. The only way to get through it and to get on the other side of it, to get those results, is to put in the hard work, right? And then, even though you put in hard work, there might be a point where you realize, oh shoot, we got to put in the hard work again, right? Like, to keep the abs, you still have to continue putting in the hard work, right? To keep those quads looking freaking like shredded in those shorts, you have to keep putting in the hard work. You can't just put in the hard work and be like, whew, thank God that's done. Now that I got these abs, like, I'm good, right? And so you have to continue doing the work, because the world is always changing. Your body's always changing. Everything's consistently happening. So you have to be willing to put in the work consistently, over and over and over again, right? We're never a final product, Remind yourself that. I'm going to pop over here. Yes, it's acceptance of everyone is not good. Yeah. You know what's really interesting that you say that is like my initial thought sometimes, like when I first like really started to learn about like what was really going on in like our system and everything like that, I felt bad. I told Mike, I was like, I just want to like hug a black person. It's how I felt. Like I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I wanted to feel bad for them. Or like my first thought is like, I'm so sorry we did that. Like I wanted to coddle, you know? And I'm like, wait, no. That's like probably the last thing they want, you know? I was like, they want is like action and like, you know what I mean? Like speaking up. But it's so funny that you put that because like, I think at first I want to feel bad for people, right? Like I want to be like, I'm so sorry, you know? But it's like, that's like the last thing anybody wants. And so I think we just have to like move past that. We have to move past like, I'm sorry and I feel bad and like be like, okay, I'm like, yes, it happened. Boom. Let's make action to like be different. Right. So I'm really glad that you even said that because it is like my first thought is like feel sorry or feel bad. And it's like, that's not fixing anything though. Right? Like just feeling bad is not going to help. And so, oh, Becky, congratulations. Good luck. What else we got? Good luck. And yes. I'm going to have to listen to your podcast. I've actually been meaning to listen to it, Carrie. I'm like, I keep seeing you post about it. And I was like, I got to catch her podcast. Because that's the thing is like,
I made a car in this bin.
oh, I see.
Look, it's Spider-Man car.
I see. Okay. You can show me when we're done, okay? That doesn't count.
Excuse me.
Okay. So, but yeah, no, I really want to see your podcast. So that's the thing, you guys, is like, I do Warrior Hour. You could totally do this for yourself, right? Like you could totally host a podcast. You could totally take the topics we talk here and really talk about them on your own podcast or on your own kind of like YouTube or whatever. Like, so if you're like a coach of mine or something, you're like, man, I love how Jennie does the Warrior Hour, or man, it would be really cool to like talk every day about topics and be able to place them somewhere that someone could come and listen. Maybe somebody likes, man, I always think you have really good ideas, or you always are really good, but maybe you don't get a chance to share it as much here, right? Because this is like my platform. You guys can do this too. You could go and have your own podcast. You could go and have your own YouTube channel. You could go and even use like these topics as inspiration for your topics, and talk about them as well. The more that we rise up and start doing things like this, the larger and more people that we can affect. Right?
Can I do colors?
No. Derek, put him down. We're not doing that. This child of mine sometimes, I swear, he like doesn't bother me at all when I'm like sitting right beside him. But the moment I come on here, he's like, can we do food coloring? And I'm like, nope.
I don't want how to make different.
We'll do it afterwards. If you're good.
Why don't I do it on my own first?
This kid. Oh gosh. Okay. So yeah, so if you guys don't know, Carrie has her own podcast. So just kind of like throwing that out there. You guys are more than welcome to check that out. It is Carrie T Podcast down here. Check it out. It's on Spotify. Let me see. I'm gonna read here. I'm trying to read and talk at the same time and it's not working. Yeah, dude, I agree. It is like our first thought is to like be defensive, right? It is always my first thought, like, because we're like, oh, that could be me. I'm not like that, you know, or something like that. Like that's always my first thought is like, well, that's not me. But sometimes we have to like let that defense down, and like that's really our ego coming in. I was thinking I talked about that like just right at the end of yesterday. That's our ego, you guys. Anytime that you want to get defensive, And it's because we feel a threat to our ego. That's our survival instinct, right? Is that first initial like, wait, I'm guarded, right? So that's your ego that comes into play to guard you and protect you. And sometimes we just have to recognize that, right? Like we have to recognize that, okay, I'm getting a little defensive here, which means I'm probably on to something that I need to delve more into. Instead of shying away from it and being like, oh, that threatens my ego. That's the first thing we want to do. If we feel threatened, we want to like shy away. We're like, whoa, right? But what if we said, okay, I'm feeling threatened here. I'm feeling defensive. I can feel my emotions rising. I can feel my heart rate like lifting. I can feel I'm starting to get like anxious. What is that in my body? And if you could start to try to recognize that and then be like, okay, I'm just going to analyze this feeling I have, right? Why am I feeling this? What sparked it? What about it can I maybe try and kind of work through rather than avoiding and ignoring and pretending it's not there or getting defensive and lashing out and getting angry? How can we work through that, right? Like, how can I calm myself down? And I have this problem as well. Like I get very anxious and my heart will start racing and I get really clouded decision making. And sometimes I have to say, okay, Jen, calm down, because this probably isn't about you. That's one thing I always kind of have to remind myself a lot of times is like, I'm getting frustrated about something that I think is about me. And it's not just about me. So I have to like kind of calm down and take a step back and be like, all right, what about this topic? What about this situation is making me frustrated? What about it is making me angry? And then I can start to try to work through it rather than avoiding it or getting angry. And so I totally understand, Carrie. And it's a hard topic. It is like such a hard topic. And especially, you know, somebody like you're saying, like you've been through issues, you know, like where you're like, man, how can we talk about this when I've got stuff going on over here that's similar, you know, and you kind of feel like maybe, Derek, hey,
I got
love
all
you.
set.
Thank you. Okay.
I got
can't talk when
water.
you're trying to hug me.
I got toys. I got water. I got a cup. And I got this serving thing.
Okay,
And
anyway,
I got
Hey.
all.
I need you to please wait. Wait
I-
for me. Don't
no,
do the experiment without me.
No, I'm not going to experiment.
Okay.
I was just saying this up.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Woo! Oh, today it's gonna be a long day. I feel it. I can feel it. But yeah, dude, I totally understand. I'm really glad you didn't leave. First of all, thank you for not leaving. Thank you for hearing it out. I know it's hard. Trust me. I know it's hard too. Like I can only imagine it's harder for you. Like honestly, I would just say that hands down. Like what you go through is hands down harder than anything I probably have to go through. For sure. For sure. And I think that sometimes if we just acknowledge that, right? Like just acknowledging that, saying like, dude, like instead of being like, oh yeah, I go through hard stuff too. Right? Like how would that make you feel if I said like, oh, well, we all go through hard stuff, right? That's not going to work. That's not going to make you feel better about what you're talking about. But if I said, man, dude, I can only imagine the shit you go through. I can only imagine the stuff that you grew up experiencing. And actually, I'd love to learn about it. I'd actually love to learn about some of the stuff that you dealt with that I probably know nothing about. Like, how cool would it be to actually learn about somebody and what they've been through rather than saying, oh, I've been through hard stuff too. Right? Yeah, we all have. But I bet what I've been through is nothing like what you've been through. And I think that's sometimes like where we just need to like understand is like, it's not about equalizing everybody. It's not about like one-upping people and saying, oh, I've had hard stuff. Well, I've had hard stuff too. It's like, yeah, we all have. But maybe if we just stopped and removed ourselves from it for a second and just actually tried to listen and learn, we might accidentally learn something. And I'm like, I'm interested in learning for sure. Like, I'm interested in learning about you. I'm interested in learning about all the girls on here. You know, I can't imagine what you've been through, Carrie. Brooke, I can't imagine some of the stuff that maybe you've experienced, you know, being an interracial couple. I don't know anything about that. You know, I can't imagine maybe some of the stuff that you've actually had to deal with. And so there's so much on here that we can learn. And I think when we just let that ego down a little bit, that's when we can really step up and learn. Because, you know, had you left Carrie, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, probably. You know? And I would be really upset if we didn't have this conversation right now, because I think this is very important to remind us that it is initially, at first, it's really easy to get like defensive, and like my ego kind of rises up too, and like, and we just need to be like, okay, I'm gonna breathe through this. I'm just gonna listen. We're gonna talk some more and see if we can work our way through it. And that can also be a topic for you to take to your podcast. You know, maybe it got your wheels spinning just enough to where you're like, boom, that's my next podcast topic. You know, I don't know, guys. I'm just trying to get you guys kind of like riled up a little bit. You know, maybe if I got you riled up a little bit, you could unleash that tiger and like start actually being out there rather than being silent. I would rather you be active and talking about it and kind of like fueling your tiger rather than like fueling your little sheep. Okay? I would rather you be a tiger than a sheep. Okay? Remember that. Even if it's going to piss some people off. I don't care. Literally, don't care. I would rather you be making people angry because you're speaking your mind and you're speaking your truth than you feeling like, oh, I don't want to offend anybody, so I'll just post this. Right? Like I'll kind of, so like when I first started posting about Black Lives Matter, my mom, God love her, she's got an old mindset, but she was like, I don't know if you should be posting about that kind of stuff because you run a business and da da da. I go, Mom, I am done being silent so people feel comfortable on my social media. If they don't like what I'm posting, they can go, and they're not people that I want in my circle anyway. I was like, I don't care. I'm so done posting what I think everybody wants to read so they can all stay here and feel comfortable in my space. But I'm uncomfortable because I'm not speaking up in what I truly believe. Okay? I would rather you piss people off speaking your mind than sit over in the wayside and posting beautiful little selfies because, you know, woohoo, that's what everybody wants to see, right? I would rather you be real and authentic and have a voice and an opinion than just going with the wayside or just going with the flow. Okay? So like I remember even when like all of this started happening, the protests started happening, I was like, how can I'm not gonna post a video of how to do squats. I'm not gonna post a workout video when there's like civil injustice happening in our world. I was just like, I can't do it. I don't feel right. And so I spoke my mind. And I may have lost some friends. I don't freaking know. I may have lost some followers. I don't care. I don't care. Because the people that do understand it, the people that do get it, have messaged me. I had my friend Nicole call me and say, thank you. Thank you for speaking up. I love what you're posting. Thank you for spreading love and joy and continuing to keep us in high spirits. I had people thanking me for what I was doing. So I don't care if those few people left. Bye. Make room for the people that should be here. Make room for the people that do want to see what I got to say. Okay? Screw those people. Right? I want you guys to have a voice because I know you guys are all very, very, very smart women. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You definitely wouldn't be here this long. You may have popped into like 1 or 2 warrior hours here and there, but you wouldn't be here consistently if you didn't have like a legit brain in between your ears. For real. Because this wouldn't be fun work if you were just like teeny bopping around, okay? You would be like, I am so over that. I'm so over that Jennie and all of her whatever, I don't know, like videos and stuff. You would just be done with it. But if you're showing up consistently, you probably have like a legit brain in your head, okay? And it probably thinks somewhere along the lines of what I got going on, okay? Growth. So if you're here, there's a reason why. And I think my job is, as a coach, is to help you guys find your voice in the world and in society. Because I'm starting to find mine, and I'm really realizing how important it is to me and how whole it makes me feel by speaking up and saying things that I'm really thinking, rather than posting this, but I'm thinking and feeling this. Okay? I want it to be across the board authentic for you. Okay? Whatever that is, whatever your authenticity is, not your authenticity of like inversion of me. I want it to be like wholly you. Okay? So I'm really proud of you guys for yesterday. I know it's not easy. I know that there's a ton that we still need to learn and work through, and it's going to be heavy. It's going to be heavy for a while. We have a lot to undo. Okay? We have a lot of work and damage that we don't even realize. Like yesterday with the video, the shampoo sections. Something so small, so little that is in our society. I don't even think about stuff like that. Of course, I haven't washed my hair in like 6 months. Maybe that's why I haven't even been down a shampoo aisle. But it's something I don't even think about. Until now it's been exposed to me, I'm like, oh shit, that's weird. Right? Like, here's your little corner of hair care products. How weird is that? How crazy is that? But I would have never known had it not been expressed to me. And so that's why I love things like, I'm sorry, Carrie, I keep going back to you, but like, I want you to speak up. I want you to talk about the things that you've been experiencing. I want you to put it out there and say, dude, this is what I went through when I was little, and y'all know nothing about it. Even if the war on race right now is between blacks and whites, there's so much that you have in your little bank of experience that could probably help all of us. But you gotta step up and speak it out. And I'd love to hear about it. Like, seriously, like, I would love to hear about it. Like, there's so much that we can learn from each other just by sharing each other's experiences. Okay? So that is kind of all I have to say about yesterday, unless somebody else had something else that they wanted to talk about with it. I was going to kind of shift gears for the week. Let me see. I have a video for us. I have it on my phone. Let me find it on my YouTube here.
I do want to say, like, where you live is, racially so important, because people don't realize that, like, where you live has such an impact on everything. So when we first moved to Indiana from California, we moved to an all-black neighborhood. And when we got there, the black kids were like, oh my gosh, she's so white. Her skin is like porcelain. She looks like our dolls. And so growing up with those kids, and like, I went to Pike High School. I was the only white girl in all my classes. Like, they called me the token white girl. That's just, there wasn't white people. I mean, there wasn't white people at Pike. And so when you grow up that way, and where I grew up in Sacramento was super racist. Like, my dad's family, like, I had to mute and block and delete all of them through all this shit, because I'm like, I'm not going to listen to what you have to say. My nephew is mixed. And if you can't respect my sister, I don't need you in my life, period. You're not family to me. And so it's like shutting them down and then you know what I mean, they're going to call and all that stuff, and you have the choice to ignore those people. You have the choice to cut them out. You have the choice that people who, you know, people forget that, oh well, they're family. I don't care. It doesn't matter if they're family or not. They're negative in your life, period. We don't need that type of negativity in our lives. Cut them out. Cut them out. It's not worth the stress that you're going to feel on your own heart and in your own head. The turmoil, the inner turmoil you're going to feel about them is not worth it. Cut them out. My dad, I haven't talked to him in years because he told me that he would never, he called my sister an end lover and said that he would kill that baby if he ever saw him. Talking about my nephew. Yeah, I will never ever talk to you again. And I haven't talked to my dad in years. No, because I don't need you in my life. And if that's how you feel, bye. Bye. So don't be afraid to really cut people out, friends, family, whoever it is, cut them out because it's not positive in your life.
Dude, that's crazy. Isn't that crazy? Like, I mean, like, I know it's something he's learned for like his whole life, but like, I'm like, step back and listen to what you just said. Like, what does that even mean? Like,
it's not though. That's the sad part. Like, my grandmother's best friend was a woman from Africa that she worked with in a sewing shop. So it's not what he was. He learned that way. The friends that he chose to hang out with through the motorcycle clubs. I mean, it was learned behavior, not taught. My grandma didn't teach him that.
That's so crazy. That is crazy.
Without you.
Yeah, I think it really is hard. Like, I think we were talking about it yesterday a little bit. It is really hard to, I think where you grow up has a lot to do with it. You know, like the way Mike grew up and the way I grew up are polar opposites. I mean, Mike grew up, at one point he had a Black foster family, and I barely had, I think we had like one Black person in our school, you know? So like it was totally, completely different opposites. And so our experiences in life have totally shaped who we are now and what we go through, but it came from a total different background. And I had to learn about what he went through, and he had to kind of learn where I came from, and we had to like learn about each other. And that's why I think you guys, it's so important to talk, you know, and to express like, hey, this is where I came from, you know, but then also be willing to learn, you know, and unlearn. Like your dad just has to be willing to unlearn that, you know, and that's all it is like just be willing to unlearn that. And it's a decision he could easily make, right? Like it's a decision he could say, you know what, I'm not going to hate them anymore.
Yeah, but then that's the problem though, is that when all of your peers and the people you choose to surround yourself with are like that, and you make that change, you're out. So you have to be willing. It's just like being an addiction. You have to be willing to cut everybody out. And when you're not ready, you're going to sit there and sit and stew in that negative. And it's going to hurt you your whole life.
Yeah, it's crazy how some people will just choose to stay there, right? Like just choose like to physically stay in that hole. I don't even know what else to call it other than a hole. Like just literally like there's a ladder sticking in there, there's a rope, there's steps, and they choose to stay in the hole and say there's no way out, right? And you're like, you could take the ladder, you could take the rope, you could take the steps, but you're choosing to just ignore all of those and be like, I'm in a hole, what am I supposed to do here? And it's like,
right. How many people put their hand out to you already? How many people literally reached for you?
Yeah, exactly. And there has to be a point, like you said, where you just say, you know what, I'm done reaching for you. I am done reaching for you because it is no longer serving me to reach for you. And I have to be at some point protected and guarded to myself in my own life, in my own family, that I can't keep reaching for you. And it's hard. Whew, that's hard. That's hard to decide, but Kristen, I bet it is much nicer to choose not to talk to him and not have him in your life than it is to try to keep reaching down for him.
It was so much more than that, than just the race thing with my dad. So for me, it was just like, bye. I didn't care. I mean, my dad, that's the whole thing though. My dad wasn't around because of the group he chose to be with. The group that he chose to be with is racist, and my dad chose to be an addict. So it was like, the whole thing comes full circle. When you choose to live all the negative things in your life and stay in all that negative shit, you're not going to pull yourself out of it. You can. There's options for you, but you're not. I mean, people that old aren't going to choose to.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. We kind of go through the similar stuff with Mike's mom. She just will always choose herself over everything. And that's why we keep our distance from her. Like, Derek, take this and go back in there now. You're not even supposed to be doing that.
I want to try and make
this kid is going to be the death of me today.
Excuse me, I want to try and make this go in the dark.
It doesn't go in the dark. It's just food coloring. I'm sure you've probably used the whole thing. Use it all by food coloring.
How white is it?
It's green, yeah.
Yeah, it's a white green.
Yeah.
And when you put a zombie in there, it was green.
Okay. You're
and
funny.
All
right, I'm going to read this. Hey, go play. Go. Okay. I'm going to read this, Annabella. I want to read this real quick. Ooh, Alicia, that's crazy. I was reading that. Sorry, I'm reading. Give me a second. Yeah, dude, I think that's I love that you ask questions, because it's hard to ask questions. Like, it's hard to want to reach out and be like, hey, can you kind of educate me on this here? Or can I reach out to you and talk to you about this? It's hard to know who you can and cannot reach out to and talk to about it. But find your people, right? Like Annabella's sitting over here. She's like, I got people I work with. They may laugh at me, but maybe they actually still guide me, right? I have a couple people I reach out to and I say how do you feel about this? What is this? Is this I have my people I check in with. Okay. Have your people you check in with. If you don't know, start reaching out and saying, hey, I'm really trying to learn more about this. And I see you're posting a lot about it, or I see you have a really strong opinion on it. And I trust who you are. First of all, make sure it's always somebody you trust in, right? So for me, if you guys went to Upper, I trust in Mark Albert and Trish Brazzini. They're a couple that I always reach out to and say, hey, I just want to make sure I'm on the right track here. And they will kind of check in with me and say yes, you're doing all right. Continue going in this direction. They're people I trust that I can reach out to and say, am I making the right moves here? Now, it's still always I always still, again, be authentic to myself. But if there's ever you need reassurance, you can have that person that you reach out to and say, hey, is this okay? Is this right? Or Annabella's like, hey, I'm going to reach out to some girls that I work with and kind of talk with them about it, because I really trust them. I trust that they know what's going on and they're going to give me the right feedback. Okay. So I love that we're talking about this. And I know you guys, it's so icky, right? It feels icky all the time. I don't know if I'm ever saying the right thing. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I mean, after we got off our call yesterday, I was like, I think that went well. It was that was good, right? But I second guess myself just because I'm nervous, right? Or my ego steps in and was like, there's no way that was a good conversation, Jen. Or you know what I mean? You start to kind of second guess yourself and talk down to yourself. And I was like, no, I just stopped myself and say, no, actually, I think that was a really good conversation. Actually, I really do think that we made progress. Okay. So you're going to fight with yourself a little bit in your head of is this right? Is this not right? Am I doing it? Da, da, da. Trust your gut. If you can't trust your gut, find somebody you can reach out to. Okay. Find somebody you can check in with and say, hey, I'm a little nervous, or I feel like I'm going in the right direction, but I'm getting a little stuck. Find somebody that you can reach out to. I think I'm just double backing and kind of scrolling up, and you guys, I really think that the more you travel,
Mom,
the better it is.
Mom, it turned pink.
The more you can get around. So for me,
It turned pink.
I see.
If I put a whole bunch of water, it turned pink.
Eat your cereal?
I'm full.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I'm full / I found something else to do. But I think that you guys, the more I travel, the more I've lived other places, the more I've understood too. And not all of it, but like I've lived in Alaska. I have traveled in California. I was born in Colorado. I grew up in Ohio. I've lived in Indiana. I've lived in Texas. And now I live in Florida. I have been shaped by all of these different locations that I've lived. Had I only stayed in Upper, I don't know if I would have had as bold of a mindset as I do now. And I'm not saying anything bad about Upper or living in Upper. I'm just saying that there is something about once you get out of your comfort zone and experience other cultures. Like when I moved to Texas, it was a culture shock to me because the Hispanic community, I was like, holy shit. Like I was the odd one out, right? Like me as like a little white girl was like the odd one out when I lived in Houston because it is booming with Hispanic community. We moved here to the Florida Keys and I'm like, whoa, the Cuban community is huge here. Like, whoa, I was not ready for that. I love it. No, like, I love the Cuban community. I love their pizzazz and their sass and their music. Like I love Cuban community. I would have never known that had I not moved here. Okay. My neighbor is a Jamaican neighbor. I love learning from him. They grow all types of like interesting food and stuff like that over in their little garden. And he's like, here, this is a Jamaican tea and stuff like that. And he's like, oh yeah, big in Jamaica. And like, he just like learned so much from living next to a Jamaican family. Had I not put myself in that situation, I wouldn't have expanded my mindset. Go ahead, Kristen.
So the other thing too is like one of the things my sister and I were talking about recently is that people who, and you talk about living different places and getting to travel. The other thing that people can do in their own community is go to the small mom and pop shops and eat and learn about their communities. Like there's the food, I mean, there's so much food that you can explore if you're adventurous with food that is, I mean, there's so many cultures that do so much more vegan food than we do because they know it's better and their bodies thrive off of it. And so it's like, there's so many things. So it's like, there are little places that it's like my sister and I have made ourselves know, whether they're Thai places or Vietnamese places, or there's a Haitian place that we go to in Indy. Like there's so many food spots and the food is so good. And ask them, sit down and talk to them about their culture. Tell me about this, because they will. And they love to talk about it. The Cubans out here do too. Tampa, so Ybor City is like where they came to and started rolling cigars. So like there's all kinds of like, literally you can watch people roll cigars in their windows. And they're drinking and rolling cigars, and it's kids in there rolling cigars because that's their culture. And you got to go in there and ask about it because it's like, what are you doing? I need to know.
I love that. I think it is important to like really go in with an open mind. Like you don't go into the Thai place going, do you guys speak English? You know what I mean? Like you have to go into it with an open mind. You have to go into it wanting to immerse yourself. Right? Like I would prefer to go and stay like somewhere and immerse myself in the culture than go to like the big fancy resort and pretend I'm like not there. You know, like I know I even hate like cruises. I like know I went on a cruise for like Beachbody, but I feel like a cruise is like a super like inauthentic way to experience islands, but not really experience islands. Like, it's almost like, can I experience this on my terms? Like, but I'm still gonna go back here and eat my full buffet of like every food, you know? Like, I just think it's like, it's a way to kind of avoid the actual culture of like what you're trying to go visit. I would prefer to like go stay in a shack somewhere and like immerse myself in culture for several days than just going somewhere for like 8 hours and being like, oh yeah, I picked this up from the Bahamas, but I didn't actually experience the Bahamas. I just stepped my toes on their island and then got back on my ship, you know? Not like speaking crap about cruises is totally fine if you go on a cruise. I'm just letting you know that it's a minor way to experience culture, and you're really not going to experience the culture unless you choose to go to somewhere authentic when you're there. And so I think I love that you brought that up, Kristen, because I think that's one thing, like whenever we travel, I always look for something authentic. I'm always looking for like an authentic restaurant or an authentic little store or like a little trinket shop. I don't want to go to Sandals, right? I don't want to go to somewhere that I can get the same rinky-dink little trinkets at every single place. I want to go where something was handmade or hand painted or hand created by somebody that was local, that their family's been doing it for years. Like that's more my jam, you know? I haven't always been like that. I haven't, but I've learned that I appreciate it more.
It's also important to support those local communities to help them grow, because that's part of what we need to do to help people thrive. Is we don't ever go there because we're either scared or the area that it's in. And it's like, go in there and tell them, I've never eaten your food before, and just go with the flow. Go with the flow. The first time I ate Thai, I was so scared. They brought me food and I was like, oh, I don't know about this. They brought me something different. Palate cleanser, like watermelon as a palate cleanser. I was like, what is this? She's like, just eat it, just eat it. I'm like, okay. I mean, you know what I mean? But you're right. You have to go in with an open mind, but it will give you a different experience, and they will be so kind to you. People love to talk about their culture and love to talk about themselves. So it will be important to them and important for you.
Turns orange.
Thank you. Your hands are all colorful.
I know.
I love that, Kristen. No, not by my computer. Take that back into the kitchen.
I'm not going to dump it out.
I know, but it might fall. I love that. And I love just like being honest, like saying, hey, I've never been here. I think that's the thing too, is like we just get so like our ego gets in our way so much, you guys. Our ego is like, oh, I'm not going to go there. I've never had that before. And I don't want to look stupid because I don't know. I can't read anything on the menu and I don't even know what it says. And I don't know if I'm going to like it. That's ego coming in, right? And so then you choose Applebee's over some authentic Thai place. But what is Applebee's providing you, you know? I would say put yourself in the uncomfortable situations. Put yourself in the uncomfortable situations because you might actually learn something about a culture or yourself. You might learn something about yourself. Oh, I didn't know I liked Thai noodles. But had I never tried them, I would have never known maybe they're my favorite food. Right? Because I was letting my ego get in the way and my pride get in the way. And I was letting fear rule me. I stopped myself. Okay? But actually, what if we just felt that fear and said, I'm really nervous about trying this new place. Like, I have no idea what I'm about to get myself into, but let's try it. Let's feel that fear and then do it anyway. You guys like a Darren Hardy quote? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Okay, that is like one of the first quotes I ever heard when I started Beachbody was feel the fear and do it anyway. It never occurred to me before that I could experience fear and still choose to do something. Once I realized, oh, I can actually be afraid of something, but then still choose to do it. Oh, I can actually still do this. Once I realized that in my mind, because it had never occurred to me before, I started doing all kinds of stuff. I started, well, let's go here. Yeah, let's try that. Yeah, sure, let's do that. I just became like a yes man. You guys ever seen that movie? I love that movie. I'm a big Jim Carrey fan, but like he just became a yes person. Right? And and you don't have to come to everything because like you have to have your boundaries. Okay, so let's find a balance in that. But stop saying no just because it's uncertain. Okay? Just because you're a little fearful of what somebody might say. Just because you're a little fearful of what somebody might think. Like, oh, what are they going to think of me when I walk into this Thai restaurant and I don't know anything? Who cares what they think? But you have to be open and saying, hey, I'm here to learn and I'm here to experience. How can you help me? Rather than going, do you guys even like have bread? You know, you can't go with a chip on your shoulder. right? You can't go into somewhere trying to experience something and have a chip on your shoulder. You have to be open. You have to be willing to grow and experience. So why don't you walk in with your head pulled back, your shoulders down a little bit, and say, hey, I've never been here before, but I'm so excited to learn all about Thai food today. Can you help me? Or can you set me with a waiter that maybe can help me decide what I need to eat or what I want to eat? Ask for help. And then be willing to accept the help. Be willing and open to learning and growing. Okay? I love that idea. Like, I love just even putting that into perspective of just how our ego and fear stops us from experiencing. But experiences are what we need to understand other cultures. That's what we need. More experience.
Mom, can I check?
Right? You don't understand a protest? Go to one.
Mom, can I check the menu?
You're scared? Go to it anyway. Derek, get inside.
I want to check the menu.
No. Oh my gosh, this kid. I'm gonna mute myself for just like
Okay.
he just ran back inside. He knew. I was like, I am dying. Okay, let me get back. But guys, you don't understand what protests are about? Go to one. You're fearful? Good. Go to one. Watch a live video. Go to search for it. Google it. Search it. Like, learn about it. Because the moment you learn about it, there's nothing to be scared of. You realize that this is actually a protest for peace. It's not about the riots. Right? But we fear it. We fear it so much, and then so we hold back and we don't experience. And then that feeds the fear. Okay? But I would rather you just go for it. Go to it. Experience it. So you can understand it. Right? Like, I have no idea what you guys experience every day, but if I wanted to, I would have to put myself with you. I would have to come to your house and meet your family and eat dinner with you and spend time with you and to understand anything. You can tell me all you want, but until I immerse myself in your household, I have no idea what it's like. Right? So you have to want to experience it. The mom threat of 20 jumping. Oh. Bethany, that is awesome. Don't make me mute myself. I'm so glad I read that right now. Dude, he knows too. He knows, like, if I have to like legit mute and like get up, he's like, oh shit. Mama ain't playing today. It's funny. But yeah, you guys, I'm really proud of you guys, for real. And we're not, like, seriously, we're not going to fix it in one day. Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, how you're talking about, like, experiencing, like, you're speaking to my heart right now. But, like, just doing it, just experience it. As some of you guys know, most of you know, that our house is on the market. And people are asking me questions, like, what are you guys going to do? What's your plan? I don't know. But I know I want an experience. Like, we put our house on the market to move out of state, have an experience. If it doesn't work out, then we can always come back home. But like, that's something too, like with my kids. Like, I don't know if you guys are aware of Bucyrus, but it's a small little town. Like, Bucyrus is super little. There's not a lot of opportunities here. There's not a lot of culture here. Like, I want to give my kids like the experience of other cultures, you know, having opportunities out there to do whatever they want to do. And if that's me sucking it up, stepping out of my comfort zone and just saying, let's freaking do it, then let's just do it. Like, okay, if it doesn't work, then we can move back. Cyrus is always going to be here, right? So, I mean, my only thing is like when they start school in August, I don't want to pick up and move them in between school. So if we're still here in August, they'll finish out school. But after that, I mean, we're out. Like, I don't know where we're going yet. But that's the experience. Like, I'm like, and people gave me the mindset, you know, I started looking for houses around here and around the area to buy just because I was allowing people to get into my mind, get into my head. And I was losing sleep over it because then I was worried about other things. And I told my husband 2 days ago, him and I sat down and we we're like, what was the reason of putting our house up on the market? Like, what was the reason? To sell it and to move out of state, to have that experience. We need to get back to that. Like, you can allow people to speak into your mind, and I allowed that, and I allowed it to stick. But then you have to realize what your dream is, what your goals are, and what you want to do. Who cares what anybody else thinks? Like, yeah, you can take their advice, you know, leave it or let it go. But what do you want? And I want to experience a culture. I need a bigger experience for my kids. I want them to have more.
Come to Florida.
Yeah, I know. I've actually been sending her secret messages. I'm like, Florida, Florida. I've been like, I literally will like send her stuff all the time. I'm like, Florida.
There's so much here. That's why we moved here, is because there's so much here. You can go north and go, you know, marshlands and hang out in rivers, and then you can go to beaches. There's everything, but snow, which is awesome.
There's snow. I think that you would love it here. You gotta come visit. Just bring the fam down and come visit. You guys can crash at our place.
We actually had to use our flight credit before June. We had to use it before June 11th. So we booked a family vacation to the hotel that you guys were going to in October.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we'll be down in Florida in October as our whole family. So we'll have to chat. Maybe you guys can come and stay at the hotel too.
Yay, yes, let me know. For sure. I would be totally down. I really love Florida, you guys. Florida has a lot of culture. Plus, there's always people vacationing here. So, like, there's, like, plenty of times where, like, we'll be on the beach and the people next to us are like, oh, yeah, we're from Germany, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, you know, and I just sit and, like, talk and learn from them. And, like this one family, they had a baby with, like, multiple sclerosis. And I guess here in the Florida Keys, they do dolphin therapy, which this is stuff I've learned. So they have, so kids that have, like, multiple sclerosis, they say that there's, like, a huge multiple sclerosis. Why can't I say that? Sclerosis? Whatever. I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say. But there's a study that they do down here where they have younger, like, babies or children, like probably like 3 and under, where they do dolphin therapy. They put them in the water with dolphins and help them do water therapy. And it's like this whole thing down here I would have never known about had I not moved here. And it's super cool. And then even just learning, maybe not even culture, but I've learned so much about the ocean about being here. Like, just even learning about the ocean life from down here, learning what kind of fish and the amount of trash and all of that kind of stuff, learning about the ecosystem down here. It's so cool, but I would have never known that had I not just gotten out of my shell. I think when I was younger, so my parents moved from Colorado to Ohio when I was 5. That is forever shaped a part of my life. Because I always think, now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, well, my parents moved. They had 3 kids. And I was 5. We were 5, 9, and 11. And my parents moved from Colorado to Ohio. I'm like, well, heck, if they could do it back then, I could do it now. If my parents can do it, Tennille, you can do it. you know? Like it's all just, I think sometimes when we experience something like that, we're like, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, you just gotta have kind of that mindset rather than being like, oh, I could never do what she does. Well, yeah, you're right then, right? If you think that way, you're absolutely right. But if you say, I think we could probably move. I'd really like to go check that place out. What if we went and lived in Florida for a few years? Doesn't work? You Cyrus will be there. We'll come right on back. I always think that about Upper. I'm like, heck, if life doesn't work out at some point, Upper's always there. I could always move back to Upper Sandusky. And I know I'd be totally accepted. Maybe my dreads wouldn't. Ooh. I'm sure everybody in Upper would be like, oh, that dread girl. You guys, I have grown so much every time I visit somewhere, every time I move somewhere. And I think that there is really something to say about that. Maybe you don't have to move, maybe you love where you're at, but I think that you got to get up and at least visit or immerse yourself at some point into some other culture. And I think it's very important for us to do it for our kids. Okay. I think it's very important for Derek to experience different cultures. So he just grows up thinking that's just the way it is, because it is, right? Like when we grow up in cultures and we're in our small little bubbles and we never experience anything else, that is what we think the world is like, right? Until all of a sudden they go to college in an inner city and they're like, holy crap, what is all of this? Who are all of these people? And then they're mind blown at the age of 18. When you really probably, maybe when they were 5 or 6, could have taken them inner city and went to the arts museum, went to the zoo. You know what I mean? You can start immersing them in these other cultures so they get to experience other people. Because I think the more we just experience other people, the less we're scared of them, the less we're intimidated by them, the more we can understand them and be like, oh, they're just a family at the park too. They just speak a different language. Maybe I'll try and say, hola, bonjour, ni hao. I don't know, whatever I can try to do to get them. I don't know, I'll just try, you know? But had we not ever like been put in front of them, would have never happened. Right? So I think the more we feel that fear and do it anyway, the more our kids will. And the easier it will be for our kids. Because I think of it as like, wow, my parents had to be probably pretty fearful of moving from Colorado to Ohio. That had to be kind of like a, oof, we're going for it. We're making a big move. We got 3 kids and a business. And my dad was taking his backhoe. We moved our entire lives 5 states away. That had to be a little scary, I'm sure, for my mom. But she did it. And it's shaped in my head, oh, well, my parents did it, so I could probably do that. Right? And I learned a lot along the way that it's actually not so easy to move from states away, but it's possible. It's totally possible. You got to be willing to put in the work. You got to be willing to feel very, very, very uncomfortable in multiple situations, multiple times, right? But instead of running and hiding from it, you stay in it. You stay there and you're like, all right, I'm going to feel this. I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep trucking instead of running and hiding. Right? I just think of it as like, I was never the person, like once I had been expanded, I could never go back. Once I had known and learned, I can never unlearn. I can never unknow. And I can't pretend. I'm a terrible liar. I can't pretend to not know something once it's been put into my mind. Okay. And I want the same thing for you. So now that you know, for your kids, for them to understand culture, you have to put them in culture. Okay, now you know. So now what can you do? What can you do in your little community to put them in more culture? No, now that you know, you can't unknow. So it's your responsibility to help our future generation understand that, hey, the more you experience, the more you get out, it's less scary. It really is. Like, Tennille, I'm so excited for you guys to make your first move. Because once you do, you're going to realize it's not so scary. Once I moved from Ohio to Indiana, I moved to Indianapolis and I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I found a job. I got an apartment. That wasn't so bad. So then I was like, Mike and he was like, hey, want to move to Texas? And I was like, sure. Why not? Let's go. And we moved to Texas. And then after everything happened in Texas, I was like, he's like, hey, Florida's pretty cool. And I was like, yeah, let's go. I'm not moving back to Ohio. That's literally what I said. I was like, I can't be back here. I was like, I miss the sun. Because once I'd experienced the sun, like long term, not just like short term, like Ohio. Ohio is a short term sun. I mean, if you guys haven't experienced otherwise, you don't know any different. I'm going to tell you, once you experience the sun for an entire year, you'll never want to go back to gloomy clouds. It's just how maybe that's just me. But once I had been expanded, I couldn't go back. Once I had known what was out there, I couldn't go back. I will always love Upper. I will always appreciate it for exactly what it was. I love the childhood I had. My parents created an amazing childhood for me. But I got a different idea for Derek. Okay? I have a different idea for Derek. I want him to experience culture way before he's an adult. Because I didn't. I didn't really experience culture before I was an adult. Right? Like, I actually didn't even really experience culture in my college. Literally, like, I went to Ohio University down in Athens. There was not a lot of culture. It was a very progressive college, very liberal arts kind of college, but there wasn't a lot of culture. Okay, even like the foreign exchange students that came from like China, they all stayed in one little dorm and they hung out with each other and they were like over in their little area, right? Like, that's how it was. And so I didn't really experience culture until I moved to Indianapolis. And I was like, oh, what is the West Side? What does that even mean? Oh, that's what the West Side means. I didn't know what that meant until I was experiencing it, until I lived it. And then I was like, okay, this isn't what I want to live. I don't want to live inner city. I'm not a city girl. I'm still a country girl. So then we moved to Texas, right? And then we moved to a rural town in Texas, and I was like, oh, this is not what I want either. This is worse than Upper. I loved Upper, but like a small town in Texas, I was like, oh my God. I'm sure, is Amanda still on here? Yeah, she probably knows what I'm talking about. It was like, whoa, I gotta get out of here. You should have seen the looks we got when I told people that Mike and I weren't married, but we had a kid. Woo, buddy, were we judged like nobody's business. Like, this person wouldn't even look at us to sell us a truck. She wouldn't even talk to us. We literally went in there and said, I'm purchasing this truck. She wouldn't even give us the time of day. She tried to write us up a loan and said we got denied. And I was like, excuse me? They wouldn't even look at me because I wasn't married to the man sitting next to me. Had I not experienced that, who knows what would have happened? But it opened my eyes to something, right? And I was like, this is not what I want to be in. This is not what I want to experience. This is not the world I want to be in. And so I moved. We moved to Houston, closer to the city, but like outskirts city. We were like, let's get an island life, but still have our city and cultured people. So it took time to like find where I belonged, right? It took time, but I experienced so much along the way to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. Okay. And that's how I created an opinion about my life, because I experienced things. Okay. So if you're like, man, I don't feel like I have a big voice. I don't feel like I have, a big opinion on the world or on life. You got to experience more. Once you get experiences, you're going to be like, oh, I'm going that direction, or I'm not going this direction. Okay. But you have to push yourself to get uncomfortable. You have to push yourself to kind of be like, all right, I'm going to put myself in this situation. And it may not work out. And it may work out, but you're going to know, right? There's going to be a point where you know, hey, I should be living here or I shouldn't be living here. Okay. So experiences are what's going to make us whole. So funny. I totally was not going to talk about this today. That just kind of happened. I had a whole other video about what makes life good that maybe we'll just listen to tomorrow. But I think maybe it just needed to recap off of yesterday. We just needed to kind of go into it yesterday. You guys, the more we understand culture, the more we can understand what people go through, right? Like just tying in yesterday. The more we just put ourselves to say, yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable, but I'm going to learn about myself through this. Okay. There's been tons of situations I have learned from the hard way, right? I didn't read about it and find out about it. No, I experienced that shit the hard way. Okay. But like, that's just like, I'll end with this, Derek. Like he wanted to climb up on the top of the boat, which it has like a little top deck. I was trying to tell him, don't go up there. It's a little wavy. You're going to fall. Wouldn't listen. And I was like, all right, dude, experience it. Climb on up there. And we hit waves and he went from side to side and held on and he got so scared and we had to get him down. And I said, now you know, dude. Now you know. Because it wasn't enough for me to just tell him, right? It wasn't enough for me to just say, oh, don't go do that. I had to say, all right, dude, you're about to find out and you might get hurt in the process, but I got to let you kind of go. I got to let you experience some stuff. And so maybe that's just what we need to do to ourselves too. Stop trying to protect yourself all the time from getting hurt or from being uncomfortable or from experiencing something that was too much. Go for it. Experience it. And it may hurt, it may sting, but you're going to learn about yourself in the process. And the more you start to learn about yourself, the more you can trust yourself too. Because you're going to start to develop an opinion. The more I trust myself so much more now because of my life experiences, because now I'm like, oh, I recognize this. I recognize this and I recognize this feeling. And so I'm going to go this direction because last time this happened and then I went this direction and that didn't work. So let's try this way, right? I learn about myself. And then I learned to trust myself because of the experiences I had. Or at least I know I'm capable of figuring it out. I have to trust myself to say, okay, I can figure this out. Okay? So, immerse yourself in something uncomfortable. Go for it. Like Tennille, I'm so excited. Go for it. Go as far as you can. And I'm not saying that to get away from the people you are. I'm saying go as far as you can, as much as you want to experience. And don't let anybody's opinion or thoughts or fear be projected onto you. Because it's not about them. They're going to try to make it about them, but it has nothing to do with them. And that's hard for people to accept, right? Like, it's really hard for people to accept that, like, you would do something just for yourself. Oh, how selfish of you. But it's necessary. Because now you're leading the way and saying, you know what? We don't have to stay here. Like, what if you move to a place that your kids thrive in? That they would have never have been who they are had that not happened. You never know. You never know. So put yourself in those uncomfortable situations because you're going to find out what you're made of. And I know that you guys are all strong, badass women. Like, I wouldn't be pushing you to go do that if I didn't think or know that you guys were capable of doing it. Right? I just need you guys to know, I need you guys to believe you're totally capable of doing it. Right? Like, you need to tell yourself, I'm capable of moving. I'm capable of taking my family, moving them somewhere else, and us thriving in that spot. I'm totally capable of it. You have to believe it. Okay. But if you're sitting there saying, oh my God, I don't know why we're moving. Why are we selling this house? Oh my God, was that a great idea? Should I be doing this? Oh my gosh, maybe I should ask my sister. No. No. Don't you do that. Don't you do that. You say, I am doing this for my family. And I'm following my heart. I'm following my gut. I'm following my brain. And everything is pointing me in this direction. And I can no longer ignore it. I can no longer ignore it. You guys, I lived in Indianapolis for as long as I did because my dad had passed away and I was afraid to leave my mom. I wanted to be close to her. And then there was a point where I said, I can no longer ignore this urge to get out of here. I could no longer ignore it. And I said, Mom, I hope you like flying because we're moving to Texas. And she was like, what? You know, but I was like, I'm sorry. We just have to go. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about us. And we're gone. And I've experienced so much since then. Some good, some bad, but it's all led me, boom, right here. And had I not had every single one of those little experiences, I don't know if I'd be right here. And I don't want to be anywhere else. I seriously don't. So obviously I'm making the right decisions on some level. Right? Because I'm sitting here in front of you guys, helping you guys build your confidence to go do whatever it is you need to do. But you got to trust yourself. You got to trust that you're going to make the right decisions for yourself. Okay? And experience things. Don't be afraid to experience things. Don't be afraid to immerse yourself in cultures you don't understand. That's the only way you're going to understand them. Okay? So, between yesterday and today, whew, lots of work, you guys. Lots of heavy work always. But necessary work, you guys. So necessary for us to take it to the next level always. It's so funny. It's like every week I'm like, oh, this is so necessary. Relationships are so necessary. Talking about the ego is so necessary. Talking about loving ourselves is so necessary. Talking about getting out of our bubbles is so necessary. I don't know when I'm going to run out of topics to talk about that are necessary, but I hope it doesn't ever happen. I think that if we just stay current too, like current events, I think that helps. It's like, what's going on in our world right now and how can we break it down? So who knows? Who knows what will bring us in the future? Don't have fear of it though. Okay? Don't be fearful of the future. Be excited. You guys, our world is changing and it is exciting. It's so exciting. Don't have fear for it. Okay? Let go of that past and say, you know what? It was great. That was great. But I'm looking forward now. And man, that future is bright. Okay? Go to the future. Don't worry about the past. Move to the future. Say, this is the new me. And I'm going to start doing what I need to do for me and my family, regardless of anybody else's opinion, thoughts, whatever. Let them express themselves so they feel heard and allow it go one ear and out the other. Okay? I just don't like people's opinions. Because if I would have been listening to people's opinions, I wouldn't be living where I am right now. And I love living where I am now. Okay? Because people would have said, how could you just move to an island that is more in way of hurricanes than you were in Houston? Because it's worth it to me. It's worth it to live here. And had I listened to you, I wouldn't be doing this. So you could take your opinion and throw it in the trash. Okay? Screw their opinions. Don't worry about that. All right, ladies, 9:20, and I just like rambled about today, but hopefully we got something worked out, or maybe some of you guys needed that today. I probably needed that little reminder as well. Yes, exactly. Hear them, acknowledge them, like Tessa said, but always still come back to your own voice. You know, say, okay, I understand that they have an opinion and that they maybe are in fear of what's going to happen to us. I acknowledge that, but we're still going to move. You know, so acknowledge, but don't allow it to change how you feel about what you're doing. Right? There has to be like that barrier. So I love that. Oh, I love that, Nicole. Isn't that, and see, like, even you guys, you don't have to move like 5 states away, right? Like maybe you just move down the road, or move to the next town, or move to the next state, like whatever. Or maybe you just take a family vacation. Like when I was younger, guys, we never took family vacations. We never took family vacations unless they were to Lake Erie. We went to Lake Erie every weekend. That was it. And so like maybe you just need to be like, okay, I'm not gonna move. We love our jobs and our household and you know everything we have here, but maybe I'm gonna start making a dedication to traveling once a year with my family. Right? Like you need to find what works best for you in a way that can still help you experience things. Got to get out of that bubble, but you got to find what works best for you. Right? Like maybe you're not like me. Maybe you don't want to like move all the time and like get different states and da, 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 da. Like maybe that's like not your thing. That's totally fine. But how can you still immerse yourself in other cultures and experiences? All right? All right, ladies. I am out of topic, or I'm out of talking about that one. I think I'm done on that one. I'm excited though. I think good things are going to come from it. I think it's going to be one of those things that maybe just like sits in the back of your head. And when something comes up, you're going to go, oh, this is the experience Jennie was talking about. This is the moment where I could either say, yes, I'm going to do it, or no, I'm not. And I just want you to go to, yes, I'm going to do it. Okay? Yes, I'm going to do it. Go for it. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. It might not work out. That's a possibility too. That's all right. You're going to learn a lot. Yep. I've learned so much from my mistakes. I've learned so much from my wins too. Okay? So don't be afraid. Go for it. Go for it. All right, ladies. I hope you have a fabulous day. Happy Tuesday. I will see you guys tomorrow at 8 a.m. Elika, I'm going to talk to you today. Are we going to do yoga tomorrow, or do you want to start that next week?
I was under the impression it was starting tomorrow, but doesn't matter to me. I just need to know if I need to put a class together today.
I was hoping for tomorrow for sure. I just didn't want to spring it on you if you had maybe thought next week. So if you're good for tomorrow, tomorrow is yoga. We're going to start moving it to Wednesdays. Okay. So that way it kind of breaks up our talks too. So we'll talk Monday and Tuesday, kind of have like a mind day on Wednesday, or just kind of like mind and body relaxation a little bit. And then we'll come back Thursday. Will be like music day, free day, maybe a topic if we get talking. And then Friday will be workouts. I'm going to post that today in the challenge group so we kind of know. I know it's kind of altering right now. We're in the transition of kind of switching over stuff, but once we get in that routine, I think it'll be really nice for us. Alrighty. So tomorrow, yoga. I'll post it in the challenge group to remind everybody else too. Thank you, Elika. All right, ladies, have a great day. I will talk to you later, okay? Bye. Go experience shit. Bye.